we have walked through the last 3 weeks a lot of really in-depth stuff. And if you take the first goal setting as you came in and I walked you through, how to start to really visualize who you wanted to become, like what your ultimate goal was, so we could kind of work backward over these last few weeks together to help you identify what that person needs to do, how we need to change your habits, what the habits need to be. We've gone through a lot in the last 3 plus that bonus, week of the goal setting. And at this point, you have a lot of tools, a lot of really important tools that, as you've been able to tell, as we've been doing these, week by week episodes, if you will, together, you can tell that, they're very powerful. I've basically taken a hodgepodge of really great tools from leaders like, James Clear, like Tony Robbins, like Ed Milet, like Mel Robbins, like all these great teachers and coaches in regards to mindset and habit creation and how to get yourself to go after what you truly want. And we're creating this really powerful tool belt with resources that they have shared, and we're now kind of putting together in a tool belt for your fitness journey. But you can have all the tools in the world. You can have the very best information. You can have the best intentions to use those tools. But if we get in our own way, if we start to sabotage ourselves, if we start letting the lies of our past build up and consume us and stop us in our tracks, those tools will just get set aside. We'll go back to our old ways, and you're going to start the cycle all over again. So today what I want to do is, for a few reasons, and I'll discuss them here in a second, I want to take a break from adding in all these habit creation tools and now give you a little sharpening of the tools. Okay, so think of this as the week that we talk about how to take everything that we've covered so far, and we've got more tools to cover, but everything we've covered so far, and how to sharpen those so that they don't get dull, so they don't get set aside, so that you know how to use them in war. I know that sounds really weird. I mean, we're just talking about fat loss, and of course, sometimes fat loss feels like a war, or sometimes the new gain in your lift feels like a war, or beating your last time feels like a war. Like, it does sometimes feel like you have to show up like a warrior. And that's what I want to do today, you guys, is empower you to feel like not only do you have great tools, but you can go to war with them. You know how to use them. Okay, so up till now, we've covered a ton of great action steps. Those things I still want you to employ. But as we come into week 4, there's something that I have learned over the last, umpteen years, since 2014, when I started coaching fitness clients. But you guys, to be honest, this goes way back into training new hires as well, in, business world. So what I learned is, the first 3 weeks, we have excitement of the newness. We have hope that this is going to be different, rightly so, right? We have, we've been inspired, we've been tapped in, we've probably created a little bit of consistency. We've hopefully, if you've been doing what I've been coaching you on, you've gathered some small daily wins. We've really covered a lot about how to set goals and how to create habits to create those small daily wins. And so you get a little momentum. But for some reason, and I don't know the psychological reason, you guys, if you've been around here long enough, know that I am a neuroscience geek as well as an exercise and nutrition science geek. I love to dive into the brain and the reason that we make choices, because that helps me as a coach understand that process that we go through in humans and how to help you overcome the self-sabotaging processes we go through. But I do not know why, in all my years of coaching, week 4 ends up being like, it's a doozy. Like I said, I don't know why, but it's a doozy. I think that by week 4, the excitement, the newness has worn off. We've faced a couple little challenges, and we've won some and we've lost some. And so because we've lost some, we start to re-identify ourselves with the old person that we already said we're not going back there. And we start to say to ourselves, who do you think you're kidding, Alicia? You know you always X, Y, and Z. And we often will fall into a self-sabotaging cycle in week 4 if we're not aware of it. So today's training is going to be, number 1, to help you become aware that week 4 can be a doozy. Number 2, to go prepared into knowing, gosh, I know psychologically week 4 is hard and I need to be on guard. Like, be ready for the enemy to attack. And sadly, more often than not, I would almost say always, the enemy is actually in our own head. The enemy is us and the crap we tell ourselves or the way we give in. Sometimes it's that we've never set good boundaries for ourselves with other people. And so we think that if I keep up this thing, or if I have outward pressure from people around me, family, friends, social pressure, if I don't give in to what they're, saying about, gosh, God, you're no fun anymore because you never go out to lunch with us or what have you. If I don't give into that, they're going to see me as X, Y, and Z. And so week 4 is hard and you give in, where maybe it's been easy up till now to just stay steadfast to that identity that you're creating about yourself. Sometimes it's that something comes up in the realm of last week I didn't hit all my goals. I, fell off the track and I forgot to really focus on the small daily wins I was having. I didn't make the mental notes, the mental checklist of how far I had come and what I was truly, accomplishing, even though they were little tiny 1-degree shifts. They're important. And you just didn't, keep up with that mental accounting of the things that you actually truly were changing and how you were truly getting closer and closer to that person you want to show up for yourself as. And so instead, the one thing you didn't do becomes so spotlighted that you are now feeling like, I can't do this. Like, oh, see, there you go again. See, you always fail at this. See, da-da-da-da. If you were to think back, and I don't want you to dwell on this, but if you were to think back in your past attempts to reach whatever fitness goal that you have, whether it's losing weight or gaining muscle or, training for a marathon and you gave up, whatever that fitness goal was, I bet you could identify key times over and over again that each cycle created chaos. And I bet you the 4th week always will come up. And so I want you guys to really be aware. Another thing to be aware of, and this is not to go too deep, but I want you guys to have these kind of in your head so that you start to identify the enemy as they try to sneak into your camp, okay? So one of these self-sabotaging enemies that live in our mind that we fuel with our own thoughts, we're going to talk about how not to do that anymore tonight. But one of them is actually fear of actualizing what we've said we want to become. I know that seems crazy. Like, no, I really want to be the person who can do all the kayaking and do the mountain biking and chase my grandbabies all weekend long without being exhausted and go on adventurous vacations and keep up with that's who I really want to be. But sometimes that, although we want it from afar, as we get closer and we can see ourselves actually being able to achieve it, it's a little scary. Maybe because we're afraid we'll leave people that we love behind in that journey. They won't be able to keep up with us. That's a legitimate fear. Maybe it's because we realize, oh my goodness, if I started treating myself and seeing myself as that powerful person, not just a hopeful wish that I've had up till now, but I actually say I can do it, what I would do next is kind of scary. I'd break free from these other things that have held me back. Like, there's all these crazy, weird psychological things that we go through. I don't want tonight to be a Psych 101 class, so we're not going to go into them. I just want to make you aware of how that enemy often will show up so that through this week you can be aware and you can be looking for it. Like, it might show up as one or the other or all. I don't know how it goes in your mind, but these are things that over the years and all my years of coaching, I've seen the ways I've seen them show up. So what I want you to first realize is week 4 is a doozy, but I don't have to come out bruised. If I go into week 4 aware And with sharpened tools, like we're going to do tonight, I should be able to come out unscathed. What's really horrible is when people go into week 4 and they're not aware, they come out totally battered and bruised. They feel like they have to restart. They feel like failures all over again. That's one of the things that makes me so angry, is how this destroys that new confidence that you have built about yourself, that new reputation you started building. If we go into this unaware and we let that BS mindset sabotage us, oftentimes it will set us back weeks. I know we've talked a little bit about this before, but oftentimes if you fall off the wagon on a Tuesday, if you are lucky, you will restart fresh on Monday, as a general rule for people, unless they've been doing this for a long time. And then we know, like I know, gosh, if tomorrow I fell off the wagon, whatever that looks like for me, I just brush myself off and get back on the next day. But until you've been bruised and fallen off the wagon a lot and realized, hey, it's never fun to lose a whole 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because I fell off the wagon, felt guilty, felt like I wasted the first 4 weeks, and so I waited 4 more weeks to start again. I was sitting over in the corner licking my wounds. You don't have to do that. If you do fall off the wagon, I hate using that term because it makes it sound like this is so hard and it's like you've destroyed something. So let's not use that term. If for some reason you don't meet your minimum threshold goals for this week and you feel like you were not able to stay true to the habits, the identity habits that you are creating because something happened and it caught you unaware and it was week 4, I want you to promise yourself you'll recognize it and just brush it off and get right back up again, because that is the only way that you're going to stop this cycle, okay? So if that does happen, we can definitely brainstorm, put something in the group. I will definitely walk you through the situation, the trigger, whatever happened, give you some ideas of how to handle it next. You'll want to walk through that self-assessment kind of steps that we've talked about already to be able to assess, okay, what didn't work? How did that happen? What do we need to do next to show up better? We've already prepared you with those tools. You just need to pull them out and use them again. But what I want you to also go through this week, and all the future weeks, of course, are these 3 steps that I have learned. They have just been so powerful in my own life, in my own fitness journey, in my own ability to not just get in shape, but stay in shape. But I have seen these 3 steps be so overwhelmingly powerful for my clients. Matter of fact, just today I was having a check-in with one of my online nutrition clients, and we were walking through this, and she was just so proud of herself because she'd been able to defeat those demons, if you will, the BS lies that live in our head this last week. And she ended up losing, I believe it was 2¼ inches, and since her last measurements was 2 weeks ago. And since her last weigh-in, it was like 1.5 pounds, which was last week, 1.75 pounds, which was last week. And she was so excited because the things that used to catch her off guard, and she would let it throw her off, and she would just, wallow for a bit, and then it would take her a while. She devastated them. She defeated that enemy that tried to come in the camp, and she was so proud of herself. So that's the way I want you guys to feel. I've seen this time and time again. Just take out your pen, write down these notes, do the action steps I'm going to give you. And I promise if you apply them, you're going to come out of this 4th week a winner. But more importantly, you're going to come out with a new little deposit, a little story that you can remind yourself of the truth of who you are and what you're becoming, deposited in that bank so that later on when crap hits the fan again and you have to stand there and make a decision, you have another story deposited in that bank of who you've become, how you've handled the past, and how you've overcome. So here we go. You ready? Get out your pens. We're actually going to cover a couple different things. Oh gosh, hang on one second, you guys. My battery just said, your battery saver is on, and I thought I was plugged in, but I was not plugged in. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't mess up our life. It seems like if I sneeze wrong, it messes up our life. So So today, what I'm going to train on, you guys, I have taken a compilation of a myriad of some of the leaders that I talked about earlier. In the very beginning, we're going to talk a little bit about things I've learned from Tony Robbins, who I really love his work, how I paired it with some things that I picked up from Ed Milet, and we're going to close out with a very powerful action step that I have learned from Mel Robbins. And you guys may have heard some of these things before. You may have read some of the books that I'm going to refer to. If you haven't, gosh, I think we ought to start a book club of the books that Alicia quotes most from, and you would be able to dive much deeper into these resources. And that's actually one of the things today. There's a lot of neuroscience behind what I'm going to cover today, but I don't want to bore you guys with it. So I'm going to keep this very short and succinct as far as action steps to do, not dive deep into the science unless I feel like it's really, really relevant for you to know. But I will post some links in the guide for this week where you can go further look up the neuroscience. If you're a geek like me, you want to know the why to the how, you want to really understand, because it helps you. For me, like if I understand, oh, there is a scientific reason, this isn't just some weird woo-woo thing, because I'm not a person who's all into a lot of woo-woo. I'm very much into, oh, look at how powerful our mind is, the way our brain works, and how it creates these higher executive functions is just amazing to me. And I geek out on that. And so for me, it's got to have some basis like that for me to put any worth to it. And so if you're like that, you may want to chase this stuff down, but for the sake of time and not boring everyone who's not a fellow geek like me, I'm here to be the geek for you. You don't have to be one. I am going to just put links in the bottom. So follow up with those if you'd like. I definitely suggest doing it because it helps. For me, it helps solidify why these are valid, and then that allows me to have the faith to take the action with them. So the very first thing is we're going to talk about proving yourself to yourself, okay? So what I mean by this is up till now, you have identified how you want to show up for yourself in the future. You have identified the habits that person would be doing on a regular basis. You have identified the habits that person would need to get rid of. And you have identified what one degree shift you can focus on right now to become that person. And we've discussed habit stacking. We've discussed how you can strengthen those habits, how to set a minimum and stretch goal. So you have all these tools in your belt that are helping you really be able to prove yourself to yourself, right? We talked a little bit about having goals that are objective goals, that are external things that we're wanting to accomplish versus identity goals. And you've learned over the last couple of weeks how to start to really set yourself up to become the person that you want to show up for yourself as, and how to break it down into those goals. And each one of those actions forward is you're proving yourself to yourself. So what I mean by this is, if you think of, I'm going to take the example because we've kind of been covering this example throughout the series, but I'm going to take the example of when you first sat down with me, and this is so common, so it's a good one to use. When you first sat down with me, we talked about how you wanted to show up for yourself, who you wanted to become. I asked you to identify, gosh, what do you think is one of the big things that's held you back, that's always trips you up, that always makes you have to restart? And you said that I can never stay on track because I get so busy that I forget to take my lunch to work, and I realized that eating, the catered food that they have at work, or going out with my office friends for lunch, is just always holding me back. Every time I stay on track and I don't do that, I see the scale, I see the inches, I see my pants start to fit me better. But as soon as I fall back into my old habits and I start doing those things again, they creep right back down again. I feel discouraged, I give up, and then I feel like I have to find a new diet that's going to fix that and start all over. So I feel like I can't get into the shape that I want because I always fall into this trap. And so then we picked the habit of let's walk through setting a minimum and a stretch goal around taking your lunches, okay? We laid out the habits. We've got the triggers all laid out. I'm not going to bore you with that because we walked through those tools up till now. But now, so over the last couple of weeks, you've remembered to take your lunch. Maybe week 1, you reached your minimum goal, but not your stretch goal. Week 2, you reached your stretch goal, you were celebrating. Week 3, you reached your stretch goal, but on the weekend, you kind of fell off, so you're not quite sure where you're at, and you go into week 4 with that circling in the back of your head, right? So what I want you to do is we need to constantly be proving ourselves to ourselves and taking account, celebrating it, acknowledging it, and not just moving past it. Because every time we show up for ourselves, doing that 1 little degree shift, if we just blow past it like it's not anything important, which obviously it is, it's the way we're combating the crap that's kept you in the cycle all these years, right? So clearly it's important, even if it feels like it's tiny, it's very important. If we just overlook that and we go our merry way, then when we have 1 little hiccup, that hiccup feels this big, you guys. That hiccup is so much bigger than in our mind than what it really is. And our incremental little shifts are so much smaller in our mind than what it really is, that we continually sabotage ourselves because we're not recognizing what we have done right while we're also aggrandizing where we've missed the mark, okay? So what I want you to, step number 1 is to write down, I'm proving myself to myself. And part of that is what you've been doing all these weeks, right? You've taken your lunch, you met your minimum goal, you met your stretch goal, you set a new goal based on that activity, you're moving along. Oh my gosh, before I thought it'd be impossible for me to take lunches 4 days a week, but now I've done it consistently. I know I can go to 5 days a week. You are literally seeing yourself check off those boxes of how your progress is being made. Go back to the documents I've created of where you can check those off, the fun little accountability we have here in the group, and make sure you're participating, because that's the number 1 thing, is you need to prove yourself to yourself by 1, following through, but 2, acknowledging when you follow through, okay? So this is done with those small daily wins that we've talked to up till now. I won't belabor that anymore. Tony Robbins actually goes into, and I deep dive with my clients into this, about raising your standard. Oh my gosh, you guys, that is so powerful. And maybe I'll post this in the group so you can see me walk my clients through how to raise their standard in their goal setting. It's something we really deep dive in, but it's so powerful. If you want to follow that little squirrel trail, rabbit trail, whatever, little critter trail, just Google Tony Robbins Raise Your Standard. Very, very, very powerful workshop he does. But that's what we want to do. We've raised your standard by you acknowledging who you are wanting to show up for yourself, acknowledging how that person on a daily basis would show up and what things they would no longer do. You've raised that standard. And now when we do that, we then want to prove ourselves to ourselves. We want to make good on that. And so each time we put that little deposit in the bank of, look how I'm showing up, we start to really become that identity that we said we want to show up as. So you've got to acknowledge that. So that's number 1. Number 2. Now, here's what happens. Things are going to take place, right? We're going to have BS head talk that comes into our brain that tries to sabotage us. I kind of set us up earlier with this, so I won't go into detail, but all those little enemies coming into the camp I mentioned before, that's going to happen. And that's why we do step number 2, okay? So we've been along proving ourselves to ourselves. Suddenly self-sabotaging thoughts come into the camp. And what I need you to do is I need you to take those thoughts captive. Like literally take them, like mentally, I want you to picture taking them captive. I learned this from Ed Milet, and it is so powerful because this is actually, I'm going to back up here for a second. The reason this is powerful, and I won't go into all the geeky science of it, but just a statement, like I said, you can follow up on this on your own. But the reason this is so powerful is this is not a BS mantra that you're telling yourself. BS mantras have actually been shown and proven to be more detrimental to a person when they create them. Like, I am thin and I show up in my swimsuit feeling powerful. I am thin and I show up in my swimsuit feeling powerful. If that's not true, your brain actually knows it's not true. And it knows you're lying to it, and it creates a spiral that often leads to depression. So we don't want BS mantras. We want true pebbles that we have put in place that prove to us that we are truly building a path to become the identity that we want to show up as, okay? So that's why it's so important that we do number one, that we're grabbing those little coins to deposit in the bank, grabbing those little pebbles to create the pathway with. We want to do those so we have this little cache of stuff that we can cash in when the sabotaging thoughts come, okay? So now, when that little thought comes in and says, let's say it was week 3, and you did really well throughout the week, and then something happened on the weekend, and you ended up going out, and you didn't come home as soon as you did, and you were starving. So you had already planned going out and having a lunch with your girlfriends, and you did that, and you knew that put you a little bit over your calories, but that's okay. We talked about it, we'd worked it in, we knew that it was totally gonna fit within what you wanted to do, but the thing lasts a little bit longer, and then your errands lasted longer, and you were starving. And so on the way home, you default into the thing you used to do, which was swing by Chick-fil-A and grab that delicious little whatever that you love at Chick-fil-A and your soda. And now you're not just the little 200 calories over that we had figured and we knew was going to actually be helpful to your metabolism, and this was a good and healthy way for you to incorporate your life with your fitness goals. But now you've added another 1,200 calories onto that. And you're going into Monday feeling really defeated. And all those little sabotaging thoughts are coming in saying, oh, Alicia, see, you always suck. How in the world do you think you could ever change it? You know you're never going to be able to give up that stuff. And nobody's asking to give it up. That's actually just a sabotaging thought, aggrandizing what needs to be done so it looks harder, so you become fearful and you freeze up and you don't move forward. That's what our tricky little brain does to us. There's all sorts of neuroscience behind that, but like I said, I won't bore you with it, but that is legitimately what goes on in our head, is we get afraid, and that thing that feels uncomfortable now, our brain is trying to protect us from, and so it starts pouring in all these lies and aggrandized things that are not actually even the situation, so that we'll become afraid and we'll just not move forward, because moving forward is new. Like, if you could get past week 4 successfully, and week 5 and week 6 and week 7 and week 8 were successful, and then, oh my goodness, you figured out how to navigate a holiday weekend without feeling like you had lost everything that you'd worked for. You came out enjoying it. You came out feeling like you were part of the holiday. You didn't have to splurge on things you didn't really enjoy, but you didn't have to not fully enjoy everything about your friends and your family at that holiday. What in the world would that do for you? That'd kind of make you a whole new person, right? Like a whole new person with whole new tools. And as much as we say we want that, our brains can be afraid of that. And you need to understand that that's what they're doing now. They're like, oh my gosh, she actually became successful the last couple of weeks. Oh my gosh, he actually overcame that. And this is scary. We're going into new territory. We must protect, and aggrandizes a bunch of crap and start sabotaging you. I get a little excited about this, you guys. I apologize. But this is what's going on in your brain. So what we want to do is we want to take that little cache we built up in step number 1. We want to take that lying thought captive. Oh, Alicia, see, you're never going to be able to give that up. Oh, Alicia, see, you can go 3 weeks, but you can't go 4. Oh, you've fallen off the wagon. You're going to have to start all over again. Oh, Alicia, you're never going to be able to do this, because actually, next Tuesday is the office's Taco Tuesday, once a month big bash, and now you've messed this up. You can't possibly put a taco in. You're just going to fail. We know you're going to give it to the tacos. Blah, 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 blah. That's what it does. You've heard that, right? And you need to take that thought captive, and you need to say, nope, this is not true. This is not what's actually happening. And now you've taken that thought captive. You recognize the enemy as what it is. You're looking at him right in the face, you little liar. This is not actually true. And number two, you're now going to, this is going to sound funny, but it's really powerful. Like I said, I learned this from Ed Milet, and it's so powerful. You're going to take that lying thought captive. You're going to look it in the eye and call it what it is, the liar that it is, the sabotaging, crazy little head demon that it is. And you're going to literally visualize this as a CD or a DVD. I know if you guys, if I have younger people here in the group, they're like, what? A LP if you're older, right? Like, you're going to picture this as a record, a DVD, a movie, a video, an audible that has literally played in your head over and over and over again. You just keep setting that thing in the DVD player, setting that in the CD player. You keep push and play, letting that lie tell you who you are over and over and over again. And you're going to take that thought and you're going to put it on that DVD, and you're going to look at it and you're like, nope, not anymore. And you're literally, and I know this sounds crazy, but you're literally going to picture yourself scratching that. Like, take a piece of sandpaper and scratch it, to where if you were to put that back in the CD player, back in the DVD player, back on the record player, it would not be playable again. Okay, like I said, I know it sounds goofy, but it's so powerful. Trust me. So, taking the thought captive, recognizing it as what it is, calling it what it is, putting it on that DVD player and saying, you're not going to play, or that DVD, you're not going to replay in my mind anymore. I'm in charge. You're not. I know who I am. You're going to scratch that so you physically picture yourself scratching this so it cannot be played again, and then you're going to throw it away. Okay? I know. Seems woo-woo, but I told you, I'm not a woo-woo person. Lots of neuroscience behind this type of practice. Maybe not the exact scratching, but the physically removing and mentally removing it, okay? Now that we've done that, the next step you're going to do in step number 2, after you've taken it captive and scratched out, is now you're going to replace it with a truth. Okay, now immediately I want you to say, hey, you know what? Up until now, I may have been a person who every 4 weeks fell off the wagon. I may have been a person who believed the lie that this was hopeless. I may have been a person who believed the lie that, oh, Alicia, you're just always been heavy, you're going to be heavy. Whatever that lie is that's been going on in your head your entire life, up until now, that may have been true. Now, this is really important because you're addressing it. You're not trying to BS yourself. You're not trying to pretend that that's not the way you saw yourself before, because it is, right? This is the lie that circled in your head up until now. But you're acknowledging up until now that may have been true. But now I know, and you're going to replace it with the truth. Now I know for the last 3 weeks, I've actually been able to do something that seemed completely impossible to me in the past. And out of the last 15 days, I have taken my lunch to work 12 of them. That is who I really am. Up until now, I may have fallen prey to my favorite thing at Chick-fil-A every time I drove past it, but I have actually, for the last 3 weeks, not even been tempted by it, not even turned in the driveway. And up until now, I may have fallen prey to, I'm so hungry, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and not made wise choices. But I've actually made wise choices these specific times over the last 3 weeks. And you're going to take the exact moments of truth, all those little pebbles that you've gathered in step number 1, where you were proving yourself to yourself, and you're going to start like stoning that lying, sabotaging thought, right? You're going to start depositing them. Let's go the nice way. We already scratched out the guy. We already called him a liar that he is. We're going to start depositing those little pebbles along the pathway to build you closer to becoming and showing up naturally, habitually, in just the way you flow as the person that you want to show up for yourself as, right? We're going to take those little truths and we're going to deposit them into that bank. So now we've identified the lie, we've called it what it is, we've taken it captive, and we have defeated it with the truth of who you truly have become over the last few weeks. Now, I'm just going to tell you, week 4 is not going to be the only week you do this. Like, this is going to become a habitual thing for you. The really powerful thing is it also can start to be used in myriad of your aspects of your life, right? Not just your fitness level, but other habits that you want to break, maybe relationship habits you want to break, maybe or create, maybe ways you want to expand yourself in your career, that you've used self-sabotaging thoughts and little little sabotaging demons in your head that have held you back in other areas. Start using this there as well. Start this week with this area, but you'll see how you can branch this out, and it's so powerful. Now, step number 3. Step number 3 is really, really important. It's actually, to me, if you don't do this to kind of like close the deal, you kind of left the back door open and swinging, where that self-sabotaging thought can sneak back in really easy. So this is really, really important. And this is the 5-second rule. And this is not the 5-second rule when you drop crap on the floor and your kids are like, 5-second rule, and they pick it up and eat it. This is a powerful, very powerful tool. And if you've read Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule, then you're familiar with it. So just apply that. But I'm going to give you a very shortened version of how to apply this. Actually, I'm going to just give you how to apply it without all the science behind it. This is one of the ones I would definitely suggest you go look up why this works so well, because it is literally like a magic lock you put on the door of the place you've taken those thoughts captive, and you lock it up. And when you do this last step, it's very hard for that to come sneaking right back in. It's not to say you won't see it again later, but you now have less lethal forces. Let's put it that way, right? If you don't do this step, it feels like that back door is just going to swing open and they're going to sneak right back in real quick, okay? So the 5-second rule is based upon, let's keep it really short in the science. Our brain, going back to what I was saying about when we're doing something new, we become scared. We might not recognize we're scared, but our brain is like, what the heck is going on? What the heck is going on? This is new. This is scary. We don't know this, because your brain's job is to keep you alive. It doesn't care if you are a size 6. It doesn't care if you eat vegetables and healthy. It cares that you're alive. And new things, new situations put us on alert. We go into that fight or flight state. But one of the ways that we can pattern interrupt and end the fight or flight state is with the 5-second rule. And it's as simple as counting down to 5. So let me give you an example, okay? Let me give you the example, and then we'll break it down. So let's take our train of thought that we've had here. Lunches. And I got to 3 weeks and I sabotaged myself over the weekend. I ate, way more than what I wanted. My brain tried to get me convinced that I might as well give up, and Tuesday's coming, and you know what's going to happen on Tuesday. And then we have that birthday party Saturday, and you might as well just, let's restart 2 weeks from now, right? What I want you to do after you've taken the thought captive, you've taken the thought captive, you've scratched it out, you have now told the truth, is I immediately, once you've said the truth to this lying little thing, I want to immediately identify what habit the person you want to become would do to overcome this sabotage, and go do it immediately. So let's say it's Sunday afternoon and I'm going through all this stuff and I'm telling myself all this crap. The habit that person would do is they would immediately get up and make sure that lunch is made for tomorrow, right? So my brain is telling me you're going to fail and you have all these things going on and you're not going to be able to keep up this lunch thing. That's a lie. I've identified it as a lie. I've identified who I truly am. And the person who shows up as the person I'm becoming, the habits they have, is not to sit and sulk and lick my wounds, but to get up and make the dang lunch, right? Get up and prep my meals. Maybe even decide, get out my notebook and write out, these are the meals I'm going to take every week. And do I have the groceries? Yep, I got the groceries. Oh, these are the things I need to get at the store. See that? I know how to actually show up every day like the person who values their health and wants to be the active, healthy, energetic person that I said I want to become. And that person starts with taking healthy lunches. And see, I'm taking healthy lunches. I have my plan, right? So you're going to do the 5-second rule with that next step. So that next step would be identifying, this person would make sure their lunches are ready for the week, and whatever that needs to look like for you, whether it's making Monday's lunch right now, whether it's making the list, whatever that needs to be, but it's something that proves yourself again to yourself. So we've got this great pile of pebbles of me knowing that this is my new identity and these are the truths that I've created and I've proven myself to myself all these times. I brought that forth to the lies in my head that wanted to sabotage me, and I said, nope, see, here's the truth. And then I pattern interrupted and I went and did the thing. See, we can sit in our head and think about all the things that we want, but that's really only one side of the coin. That's only one part of what needs to be tackled. We need to actually then go do the thing that the person we want to become would do. And when we do that, it's like lock and key. It shuts that back door, it locks it, and it's so hard for that sabotaging thought to come back in again in any short period of time. You definitely get a reprieve, you get to catch a breath, you get to gather more pebbles of proving yourself to yourself before the next attack comes. If you don't do that, you might start to swirl, you might start to wallow, you might start to start overthinking because you didn't take action. You didn't do a pattern interrupt. So your pattern interrupt is you're going to sit there and go, okay, what would the person do that I'm becoming? How would they handle this? If this was a sabotaging thought and these were the things that prove that that's not what I am, how would I show up next? Well, this person would get up and make their lunch. So I'm going to get up and make my lunch. Now, here's the thing. We can say that, but oftentimes we don't want to do it. Oftentimes you might be in the, well, I'm going to scroll Facebook for another 15 minutes and decide, or, you know what, I wanted to go look for a couple new recipes. So that would probably be a way that I could overcome this. So I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes looking for recipes. No, that's not a doing thing. You need to get up and get the notebook and write down your grocery list. Write down the lunches. Pull out the food. Create the thing. Don't sit there and look for recipes, because that's just really safe. You know why? Because your brain knows that you've looked for recipes before and you did nothing with them. It's the did part, right? It's the doing part. So I want you to immediately pattern interrupt with saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and immediately get up and go do the thing you've identified. Immediately. That immediacy is very, very important. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, when we count down backwards, it allows our brain to shift. It catches off guard. You don't want to go more than 5 seconds, because it only takes about 5 seconds or less before our brain starts fixating on the creating the recipes, the finding my new favorite thing. I'm going to create a menu book, all those things instead of action, because this feels comfortable. My brain feels like, okay, this is something we can compromise on. She wants to be healthy. I'll distract her with looking for things instead of doing the things. So you must identify what you need to do, and you must do it within 5 seconds. Get up, take action, and do. All right, you guys. So now, all those tools that we've amassed over the last few weeks, hopefully you feel like they're sharpened and you're ready for war. You're going to go through these 3 steps. Number 1, proving yourself to yourself consistently, so you have the pebbles or the coins, however you want to look at it, to build this pathway or create a really healthy bank account, right? Number 2, when the sabotaging thoughts come, because they will, it doesn't mean you're weak, it doesn't mean you're losing, it doesn't mean this is impossible, it just means you're freaking human, okay? So when the sabotaging thoughts come, you're going to take them captive, you're going to identify them as the little liar that they are, you're going to scratch them out and not allow them to replay in your brain, and then you're going to tell the truth about the situation. You're going to take all those little coins, all those little pebbles you've deposited, you've been collecting over the last couple of weeks, and you're going to use them to address the lies with truth of what you have done and how that is a lie. And I have evidence right here, Judge, that this is true. This is who I'm becoming. This is how I've handled it. And then you're going to ask yourself, what would the person I'm wanting to become do right now? They would do X, Y, and Z. Great. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm up and I'm doing. There you go, guys. That is how you go to war with the BS lies that have held you captive all these years. Now, there's probably a bazillion different scenarios we can go through. There's probably a bazillion different ways this is going to show up in your life. That's what I'm here for. That's what asking questions in the group is here for. That I want to help you as much as possible in this free group. Take these first few weeks that I walk all my new clients through to get them to where they can have that lasting fitness, get that foundation, that priming where they're all ready to go and just take off and really propel themselves into that level of fitness in a sustainable way. I want to be able to give you guys as much here as possible in walking through those steps like I do with my face-to-face and online clients. So feel free to put your scenario in the group, to ask questions. The more I know your situation, the better I can actually personalize how to apply this, right? I've given you the tools, now I got to figure out how to personalize it for you. And if they're your questions, if they're your struggles, I'm going to promise you more often than not, they're another person in this group's questions and struggles. I have been coaching people for so long, decades, between my corporate and business coaching and now my fitness coaching. And I'm going to tell you, there is a handful of struggles that if I help you with this one in a group setting, it's going to help 10 more people because they had the same struggle. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel shy about sharing. That's what we're here for. And I hope that you will put these to good use because I know if you do, it's going to be powerful. All right, there's your 3 steps. Your action step is to be aware this week of how those sabotaging thoughts would come in. I would even write them down. Okay, I know in the past, this is the crap that I've battled with. We talked about your triggers in the past. Kind of go back to that list. Oh, there it is. He's showing up there. What is the 3 steps? I put those 3 steps on a Post-it note. Put it in your phone. Put it somewhere where when it hits you, you can just be like, I don't remember. That was, and I'm in the moment of panic. How do I do this? Pull it up on your phone. Okay, these are the 3 steps. I'm going to take it captive. I'm going to tell it it's a liar. I'm going to prove to it's wrong. And I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do the thing. Make these steps accessible to you because the more you do them, just like anything else, the more they'll start to become your normal everyday practice. And you will pretty soon be applying this to other areas besides your fitness. You'll reach those fitness goals and then be applying this to all other areas of your life and reaching all sorts of goals. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. You have a very blessed night, and I look forward to answering your questions in the group.